Okay, here we are. I'm Nikki Triumfo.
Heather Clark.
Okay, we're in the middle of a webinar about how to plot your novel in 3 weeks, and we're almost at the end. This is the homework that we assign, and I've been able to get to everyone's homework grading wise. So go ahead. We're not going to draw any winners. If you're turning in your homework, I'm able to look it over and give you feedback. So, and I will do that for this week's homework. I will do that tomorrow. If you still haven't sent it to me, you're welcome to. You can send it to me tomorrow.
You can explain the homework before the scene and sequel thing.
Yeah, so we're going to go through all of the homework. This is from a handout that I'm still trying to get you the link to that. I'm so sorry. This has been kind of technologically different than what we're used to. But, so we're going to go over this handout, the homework from this handout. Okay, chat us if you're here. Hopefully people are coming in. Because they've been doing these writing exercises, so they're still coming in. Okay, so we're going to go over this homework, and then we're going to give you one more homework assignment. We're going to give you a number 5 that I should have put that on here. And so when we just wanted to add one. Okay, you're going to fill out your beat sheet focusing only on theme. Did that make sense to you when we did it last time?
Yeah,
okay.
It did.
So filling it out for your theme means, okay, I'm going to go back a page. We just talked about how your theme is a hypothesis statement of how the stated goal will fill the emotional need. I know that's a lot of vocabulary, but go ahead and write down, this girl believes that money will bring her happiness.
Right.
Okay, you're going to want to make sure that you go through your beat sheet. We kind of talked about this before, but I want you to really nail it, because your story can't end no matter how much plot you have and how many cool things. No one will ever be satisfied if you don't have an arc on theme. So you need to have a very clear, a beat sheet, remember, starts with an opening image. And so your opening image is going to have her really looking at people who have money and thinking, wow, that would be the life. You know, you want to see her being not wealthy and see other people being wealthy and happy, and how she reacts to that.
So you have to know how you're planning to resolve your theme.
Right, and then you're going to go through every single beat. If it doesn't really apply, you can kind of skip some of them, but every beat, even like bad guys closing in, you want to show how her world is really making it look like money really is the solution to everything, and that it's giving her the opposite of what she would think, to make it look really
or it's validating her wrong hypothesis, and we can see how bad that's going to be,
because that's harrowing for the reader.
It's a lot better conflict if the bad guys closing in have thematic resonance. It can't just be randomly someone comes in and blows her up.
So whatever your theme is, you're going to go through every single point and just tell us, brainstorm your ideas. So that's homework assignment number 1. I should have given you guys more time. And for those of you who want to do Nanowrimo, if you spill into doing some of these exercises and want to count that
count it for your word count.
Words, just do it. Especially if you're a new writer, I don't recommend that you go right on to writing until you know what you're doing. That's my personal feeling.
I agree.
So just take a few days, shore this up, and then start your scenes.
And count your words for all those little test balloons you're doing, all those little set pieces.
Yep.
Count it.
Absolutely. Okay, so you're going to explore your hero or your heroine. Oh, well, sorry, 3 people. If you have a hero, if you have a heroine, and if you have a villain, or other important characters like a mom or dad figure or whatever. And so you can pick any of these. You don't have to do them all. Do you want to?
Sure. Yeah, you can write a journal entry for them. You could take a personality test as though you are them.
Yep.
You could put them in a sample scene, and we call these set pieces, I think. But just do it. Just throw yourself in. There were scenes with my last book 2 books ago that I was writing, and I was crying over them while I was writing them because it was so emotional. None of those things are still in the book, but what's really cool is just it gets you rolling. It gets all of that feeling going on. So
and so on this one too, if you want to do this one, I personally think that this is good. Take your main character who's going to figure out what the theme of the book is. Usually that's your viewpoint character, and so you're going to take that person and put them in a scene where they get to defend their current belief, and then put them in a scene where they fast forward to the end of the story and envision the way they are at the end, and how strong they are, and how much they've learned, and how more confident, and all of these things, and then put them in a scene as that person, and see how they interact and see what they defend, and you'll see that they defend different things, and that they have become a different person.
And it's really good also when you're looking for conflict in your scenes, in that scene that you're putting them in, make sure that you have somebody opposing them, that you have somebody on that other side debating with them.
Right, and you want to make that person a strong person. When it's an actual scene that makes it into the book, you don't want to make that person kind of dumb or easy to defeat. You want to make them a compelling, strong argument for the other side.
Right.
And sometimes that's hard. Like if you're trying to do like, let's just pick a religious thing, like loving other people is good. If you really have a strong antagonist who is like, no, really loving other people is just a way to manipulate them. And you're like, but I don't believe that. And it is kind of hard sometimes to put that on.
Figure out why they think that and make it real.
Yeah.
So then that number 3 there is write out your main character's emotional needs, stated goal, and concrete belief. And then also we're going to post the link to the full worksheet on that if you want to break down the entire thing from Mechanics of
to the
Desire.
webinar for that one.
Absolutely. Okay. And then you can do this part.
Okay. Some people like to just write, and that's fine. But, so if you're a free writer, just write the first paragraph of your first 3 scenes. So take a scene and just be like, I know it's going to be in an apple orchard, and there's going to be a prince and a princess there, and here's what they're going to talk about. So just go ahead and write down some first paragraphs so that you can kind of get the flavor of it. That way you're not staring at a blank page on NaNoWriMo, if you want. And then, for plotters, this is where we need to go into scene and sequel more. For plotters, you're going to take the beat sheet, and you're going to write down 1 to 4 scenes for each of the segments. Now, for opening image and theme stated and stuff, those can be like all one. Like the first 3 can really all be in one scene. You can combine them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so because they only all take place by page like 15.
Right, but so, like the promise of the premise part, or like fun and games, like that might be 2-3 chapters.
That might be several chapters, and so you're going to want to put down some scenes. So when I say scene, I mean where are you, who's there, what the conflict of the scene is going to be. So you're going to name this.
And the key thing in there is scene and sequel, which we're going to talk about.
Yes, so we're going to put a link to what scene and sequel means. But so I'm going to just read this from here. You're going to, for this exercise, this is, in fact, I will link you to my real one. I will put out there what I really had for my last novel. So it says the name of the scene, and then it says where the setting is and what characters are there, and then the primary goal of the hero or the main character, how that goal is thwarted. So you want the goal to not be able to, so like if she's looking for clues, she can't just find the murderer.
So what is the conflict?
Right. The conflict
was the disaster, right?
Yeah, so what's the conflict, what's the disaster, and then don't worry about that last part. It'll make sense when you read it. But, so tell them what a scene and a sequel is.
Okay, so when she just said what's the goal and then how are they thwarted, basically there's 2 kinds of scenes. And it really, sometimes I'll write something and the things happen and then Nikki will be like, that's not a scene. And I'll be like, but it is because there's people and they do things and that's not right.
So, and they're fighting.
Right. So in order to, and you know what, it's cool if you want to keep a scene and you love what you wrote there. And Nikki's the one who taught me this. She said, like, you can always create it into a scene by changing the tension of what's happening. And I'm like, but how? So basically there's 2 kinds of scenes. The one is the main scene called goal, conflict, disaster. And then the other kind of scene is reaction, dilemma, decision. Right. So they react to the disaster at the end of the last scene. They have some kind of dilemma where there are no good choices, and then they just make a choice. And then we are going to follow them into the next scene because the choice they made there is the goal that goes on. They aren't always separate scenes. A lot of times my scenes encompass both because the reaction, dilemma, decision is like a paragraph. But you need to, I break it down anyway. When I'm writing my outline for my thing, I break it down to scene, sequel, and sometimes I'll skip a sequel, but I always want to make sure that I know that from that disaster there was some kind of reaction, some kind of dilemma, some kind of decision.
Right. So if this is kind of like you're like, whoa, I'm totally not following that, we're going to send you to a whole webinar because it really does take a little while. Just remember, there are 2 ways to think about the word scene. There's capital letter scene, which is what we're talking about. That's when there's a goal that's stated and the character is trying to get it. Then there's lowercase letter scene, and that means where you are in the book. You know, this is the scene where they're at the school and then they find a dead body or whatever. That might be 4 capital letter scenes and 4 sequels, potentially. Does that make sense? Where they're at the school. But so don't think of it as...
It's these motivation reaction units. Yeah. And the guy at Advanced Fiction Writing, we'll put up the link to that article. He explains it so perfectly.
Right.
It's just beautiful.
So basically what you're going to do is you're going to think, okay, when I start my story, I know what my character needs. How is she or he going to figure out how they're going to get what they need? That's their hypothesis theme, right? And then you're going to have them go after that, but then be thwarted. That's first capital letter scene. Then you're going to have him react to being thwarted. That's called a sequel.
Or the funny thing is, a lot of my books start in a sequel.
Yeah,
a lot
you
of my
can
books
start in wherever.
start reacting to a disaster that I didn't need, and they're reacting, and they have this dilemma, and they're making a choice, and you're seeing that, and you can choose.
Right. And at the end of your book, when you're all done writing it, you can make all kinds of choices about how to
change that tension, and go in and be like, oh no, like
how to
in
make
the middle.
pacing faster.
Yeah, there was a book I read recently that got so bogged down in the middle, and I was so bored, and then I was falling asleep, and then I realized it was, they went scene, and then they went sequel.
Oh,
They just had the characters be like, this is terrible, there are no good
actually,
choices. It was the second book in the Divergent series.
Oh, I
that
didn't
second
read it.
book, there's like this whole chunk in the middle where they're just there, and they're like, this is terrible, we have no good choices. This is terrible, we have no good choices. Like, it was like reaction, dilemma, no decision, and I'm like, why are they doing nothing?
I literally read a book just the other day. It takes place, they had some cool action stuff, and then they end up in a cave, and they literally start every chapter running back from the outside, back into the cage, where they talk about what they
just
did,
happened?
where they were out. I was like, what?
No. And
Outside
that
the cave.
that was all of
Like
my
5
books.
chapters of cave.
All of my books were like, my first book was like that.
Yeah,
I would
you
always
were-
be like, we did something really courageous and hilarious in the last scene. You wish you were
You
there,
wish
reader.
you
It
were
would have been
there.
amazing.
Yeah, try not to do that. But when you're writing your 50,000 words, don't worry if you have some sequels right in a row or whatever. You can deal with that in editing. But having a plan in advance will at least keep your brain occupied on that, because what you don't want is 20,000 words of straight sequel and then thinking this book isn't working and then you throw it away.
Or
'cause
whole
you're-
chapters of sequel to
Yeah.
the scene before. And
Yeah.
some romance novels require
Yeah,
that.
that's
Like,
true.
it's actually genre required. But if you're not writing a romance novel, you don't have to talk about the gaping hole
Have
in
we
your
talked
chest
about how much
for
we love
chapters.
romance novels?
We love them.
Because we're actually going to be, we'll tell you
Teaching.
more about this, but we're going to be teaching for the Romance Writers of Utah, and we're so excited
We
for that
are excited.
opportunity. But anyway, we're going to let you guys go, and just go ahead and plot your novel, send us your questions, but have fun with it. Get on nanowrimo.com or .org, it's .org, and register, chat with other people who are writing novels maybe for the first time. It's really fun.
And I would imagine Nikki and I will be doing some independent little Facebook Lives through Nanowrimo
Yeah.
to give you little boosts.
You know,
and if you have questions or specific things that are driving you crazy, please send us your
We
questions.
both started our first novel through NaNoWrimo.
We did. We started together. We got
Yeah.
interviewed on the news.
It was so cool.
like 12 years ago. We're like pushing our strollers. We're like, yeah, we're novelists. I was writing fantasy.
It was awesome. Okay, we'll
Okay,
see you guys
good night.
later. Thanks so much for coming.